Good morning, beautiful souls. Remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes, but this one's gonna get wild. And what I found out is really cool, and I'm loving every minute of it, and I want to share it with you guys because it's things we forgot. All right, let's go.
Her, and I had really liked her, and she had talked about stories about elves. She took me out into the lava field that had been protected, and she didn't say anything about elves. We spent several hours there. I'm with this famous elf seer, and we're walking through a lava field looking at these beautiful silver green pillows of moss that were growing on top of some of the rocks, and the lichens that were on the rocks. And it was a beautiful day. We were enjoying ourselves. We're hearing the birds and all this, and I'm thinking, what does this have to do with elves? And something happened that day that had never really happened to me in Iceland before, that I still can't process, that I still don't understand. We came back to the parking lot, and we were confronted by this very angry woman. She drives up in her car, and she's yelling at us that our dog is running through the bird nesting site, which is off limits at this time of year. So we don't have a dog. And she's yelling at us, and Rockhilder finally says, "Excuse me, do you know who I am? I'm Rockhilder Jonsdottir, the elf seer. I helped preserve this lava field." That didn't help. She was still very angry about this dog and had somehow decided that it was our problem. So we said, okay, we're just going to ignore her. We got in the car. We start driving away. She jumps in her car, and it was as if she was going to cut us off. And suddenly, her car goes up in the air. I'm sitting there in the passenger seat thinking I'm going to get rammed. Her car goes up in the air and comes down, and the steam starts coming out of the front of it. And Rockhilder and I look at each other like, what just happened? And we got out, and the other woman got out, and we look, and there is a rock, larger than a basketball, underneath the chassis of her car. The car cannot be moved in any way without a wrecker, because this rock is between the front wheels and the back wheels, not to mention that there's steam coming out of the front. None of us had ever seen that rock. We'd walked through the parking lot, it's a rock in the middle of the parking lot that is the size of a basketball. How did that get there? How did she not see it? How did she drive over it? And Rockhilder turns to me, she says, "Now do you believe in the elves?" And I'm going, okay, there's something I'm not understanding here. I had dismissed this concept of elves as just being sort of a joke, sort of a touristy thing, but this was something completely different. This was not Tinkerbell or Santa's elves or these little creatures. This was a powerful expression of nature. This was a nature spirit that the Icelanders believe that they can communicate with, and that will sometimes protect them and sometimes destroy them. It's another force in the universe.
Yeah.
There's this sense that rocks are inhabited, rocks are inspirited, that maybe they're little people living in there, or maybe they are just rock spirits.
So you spent a fair amount of time with this elf seer, Rockhilder. What is she like?
She's a very ordinary person. She's a grandmother. She likes to bake. She likes to garden. She's an artist. She paints and she draws. But she has seen elves since she was a small child.
What does she say the elves look like? What does she see?
Well, the elves that she sees are very much like people, about the same size. Some of them are smaller. And they are dressed in old-fashioned clothing because they haven't quite gotten up to the modern day. And that is a function of what elves look like in many of the stories. But otherwise, they are people. And she speaks to them, and they speak to her. In fact, when she moved from this one town, one of her elf friends moved with her and now lives in her new backyard. And they just have had a friendship all her life.
Does she say they are physical beings, or are they in some other... obviously they're in some other dimension, but...
Yes, they're in some other dimension. Another story she's told me of a mountain spirit, a very large giantess or ogress type spirit was that one of her neighbors was collecting sheep, herding sheep down off the mountain. And there's some very steep areas of this mountain, and she'd gotten herself down on some kind of a ledge to get one of the sheep, and she realized that she couldn't get up again, and she couldn't get down again, that she was sort of trapped on this ledge, and it was icy or slippery in some manner, and she was afraid. And suddenly she felt something come and pick her up and lift her up onto another ledge from which she could easily walk to the top of the hill. She told that story to Rockhilder when Rockhilder said, I can sense there is a mountain spirit in that mountain, but I can't tell if she is a good spirit or a bad spirit. Do I need to be concerned about her? And so the neighbor told the story and said, I think she's a good spirit.
Yes. So what would be, I mean, that would be a big elf to
That would be a very big elf.
Or so that's a troll?
It could be a troll. Icelanders today will classify the hidden people, the hidden folk, as different kinds of beings. So the hidden people are different from the elves are different from the trolls are different from the mountain spirits. You could find all kinds of classification systems in modern Icelandic, but if you go back far enough to the original earliest texts, poems that were written down in around the 1200s, but that were probably written in the 900s or earlier, all these words are used interchangeably. Whereas the concept that there are spirits in rocks, in mountains, in trees, in rivers, is very ancient. It is the pre-Christian pagan religion of Iceland.
When Christianity came in not just to Iceland, but around the world, especially through Europe, it kind of quashed a lot of these old beliefs. Elves and trolls were considered demonic.
Right. And that was the proclaimed purpose of the church through a lot of the Middle Ages, was to get rid of the belief in nature spirits, that any kind of nature spirits were evil, and that we were only to worship the sky gods, not the earth gods. The Icelanders, however, didn't quite get that message from Christianity because they're very far from Rome. They didn't have a very powerful church for hundreds of years, and so the concepts of elves sort of slipped under the radar.
You have a line that I love. Is it crazy to talk to elves? And you say, well, is it any crazier than Christians talking to God?
Yeah. If you think one is crazy, how do you think the other is not crazy? The other point that I really want to bring out is that when we say elf in America, we have this vision of what we mean by that word. And when we say we believe in elves, it's like somebody saying, I believe in Santa Claus. It's obviously childlike, nuts. That's not what the Icelanders are saying. What they are saying when they say, I believe in elves, is more like they're saying, I believe in God. And you wouldn't laugh at that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering where all of this fits for you. You've now been to Iceland 35 times or something like that. You have spent time with the elf seers, and you've heard these stories. You've had experiences that you can't explain in any sort of scientific, rational way. Do you believe in elves?
I have a very hard time saying that I believe in elves, but I do believe in elf stories. I think it's very important that we tell stories that encourage us to live simply and to live in harmony and to value the things we cannot see, to value the spirits in the land and in the trees. And what I bring back from Iceland is when I go walking in Vermont or anywhere in this country, I'm paying attention to what is in front of me. I'm walking for exercise, yes, but I'm not listening to a podcast. Sorry, not even yours. I am paying attention to the mushroom, to the butterfly, to the way the light reflects off of the bark of a tree, to the way the sun comes down through the leaves or the sound that the rain makes on the leaves. I'm trying to be wholly present and to open myself to sources of wonder and sources of awe that are all around us.
There's another piece of all of this about the nature of belief. What belief means.
Alright guys, it's gonna get a whole bunch weirder today. You guys checking out my rock gnome? So I don't know if you guys remember this, but summer solstice was when I found 2 of my 5 dragons. Now, dragons resonate at a different frequency as us. They're still here, and you can see them in the clouds at night, or well, sunset, sunrise, and you can look around, and if you see something that catches your attention and it looks like a dragon, that's probably a dragon. And I actually recently, a friend sent me a picture of her dragon, and she didn't even notice at first. And I ended up taking a look at the picture again, and there was a phoenix in the picture as well at the sun. So check out these pictures. But now, let me tell you about my little rock gnome here. The audio clip that you guys just listened to, that was sent to me by a friend when I first got here to Texas, and I was always like, oh man, I wish I had a rock gnome or an elf or something. Well, what if I told you you all have dragons, you all have gnomes, you all have fairies, fae, pixies, and they're all helping you every day. You just don't know it because the world is so loud, you can't silence yourself long enough to see them or see what they're doing. Well, the other day when I was walking back from the bridge that I found in my previous video, I don't normally pick up rocks like this, and it's actually pretty cool looking. I'll put a picture of it over here just in case you can't see it from this distance. But I walked by a median, and I swore I seen the rock move, and I was like, it's nothing. And I kept walking, and I got like halfway across the street, and I'm like, that rock was calling to me. So I ended up going back and picking it up, and then the other night I was talking to my earth angel. She has 30 gnomes. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, I wish I had a gnome. So I ended up asking Ori, and 3 of my 7 gnomes are here. The other ones are at my house protecting where I live right now. And it's really neat because one of them's actually protecting this knife that I got. It's an antique knife that defended a farmer's property, and he used it in defense for the property, so it's got some blood on it that I have to do like a little cleansing ritual with, but the gnome's been keeping it protected in the meantime. And I'll do a video about that knife when I get back to Florida, which will be on the 11th. Yeah, if you guys got any questions about your gnomes or your dragons or anything, I'm sure I could tap into Ori and we could ask and see what you got going on, because they're here to help us. But the world is so loud, and we're at such a low vibration, we don't see them, or we pass right by them and we don't notice. So by this rock catching my attention, it was actually the rock gnome trying to get my attention, saying like, hey, I'm here, I'm watching out for you. And I have other things here too now, because I checked, and there is some really cool stuff beyond this physical realm. And by meditating and by doing the work, you will actually find these things. And they are super cool, and they're super playful once you start opening up to them and acknowledging them. And also, you can give them gifts, and they acknowledge that, and they like that. So I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And I'll keep going with the weird stuff, because this stuff is going to be the future. There's a little bug just chilling right here. That's pretty funny. Maybe it's a bug gnome. You never know. But love you guys. Hope you're doing good.